In the world of watches, there's probably no term thrown around carelessly as the word icon. Despite it being used to describe more watches than it should, there are select models that have cemented themselves as being worthy of the title. And when it comes to chronographs, the Heuer and now Tag Heuer Monaco is one such watch, combining its legitimacy as one of the world's first ever automatic chronographs dating back to 1969 with some historic automotive tie-ins and a unique visual design format based around its square-shaped case. Today we will take a closer look at a modern example of the Monaco, but my hope for this video is to create a future series covering the pantheon of iconic watches to approach the broader picture of what has made watches like the Monaco endure over the decades, to become as significant as they are, and to provide some context to their importance and appreciation. So just to kind of mark what we're gonna tackle in this video, we'll look at a few different points throughout. First, looking at the general history behind the Monaco and what really allowed it to just gain prominence in the world of watchmaking. Then look at a modern Tag Heuer Monaco and where it sits currently. And then also answer the question at the end, why is it iconic and what makes it so unique? Let's jump into it. All right guys, now before we jump into this video, I do want to mention that we've launched like 5 new brands on the site teddybaldassarre.com as an authorized dealer, including Ball Watch Company, a company I'm very happy to, of course, be being a dealer of, given that I am from Cleveland, Ohio. Love that connection. Alpina, Accutron, Frederic Constant, Zodiac, all these brands have been added around the last 60 days or so, so definitely go check it out. Have a wide list of options now available, over 30 brands on our site. Very proud of this. In addition to that, also check out our new consultation feature if you want to talk to a dedicated watch specialist who can help you with any purchase of a watch on our website. Definitely take advantage of that. Basically just watch nerds, helping out other watch nerds make the best decision possible. teddybaldassarre.com, definitely check it out. Now the Monaco is a watch that, simply put, is unorthodox, and upon the first glance it's easy to write off as simply a strange creation that goes against the design status quo of watchmaking. But one of the key aspects in order to be considered an icon is to have some historical significance on the landscape in which you occupy, and the Monaco certainly has this. So the Monaco traces its lineage back to the late 1960s when the watch industry was rushing to unveil an automatic chronograph caliber. Ultimately, a small subset of brands announced the creation of automatic chronographs in 1969. One of those was, of course, Heuer, interestingly backed by the support of Breitling, Hamilton, Buren, and Dubois Dupraz, as well as Seiko being thrown into the mix with their 6139, and Zenith with, of course, the El Primero. For the purposes of this video, we'll avoid the debate about which automatic chronograph came first. I do not want to deal with that one in the comments, but it is safe to say the work by Heuer during this period was unquestionably critical in the advancement of automatic chronographs. Compared to the other 2 notable automatic Heuer chronographs at the time, the Carrera and the Octavia, which were essentially updated automatic versions of pre-existing designs from within Heuer's collection, the Monaco was something else altogether, with a larger case format that represented a almost perfect square shape that was also impressively waterproof thanks to an innovative design concept from Erwin Piqueret of EPSA and supercompressor fame. Named after the Formula One Monaco Grand Prix and clearly targeted towards the then immensely popular world of auto racing, it didn't take long for the Monaco to leave the proverbial start line, with the watch being famously selected by Steve McQueen for an on-screen wear during the Heuer-sponsored production of Le Mans, released in 1971 and often considered one of the best auto racing movies of all time. Now, given that exceptional exposure, the Monaco was steadily produced with some minor variations until 1975, when Heuer and the watch industry at large were collectively on the ropes thanks to the influx of inexpensive quartz watch technology, often referred to as the quartz crisis. Fast forward to the 1980s, and Heuer was, after some challenging years, purchased by the Tag Group and shifted its production name to Tag Heuer, a movement that was a shift back and allowed the brand to move back to prominence and financial security, with Tag Heuer re-releasing a modern Monaco in 1997 with a modular ETA 2894 caliber within. Subsequent versions throughout the early 2000s were characterized by subtle changes to the basic design format and also relied upon third-party based calibers. That is until 2017 with the release of the caliber 02, a manufactured caliber from Tag Heuer that has seen service in the Octavia, which I've reviewed on the channel, as well as the modern Monaco we'll be taking a look at here today. So anytime you're looking at a modern interpretation of a vintage icon like the Monaco, it's interesting to note that in many ways, despite a new broad collection of Monaco watches, not much has changed. And that's a testament to the iconic nature and enduring appeal of this design format. But for the purposes of this video, we went for the most faithful reinterpretation of Steve McQueen's Monaco with its striking blue sunburst dial. So starting with the wearing experience of the Monaco, we have a case shape and overall look that is, to put frankly, a bit strange at first, and it's an effect of just how simply different this design is compared to other watches. When considering this world of watches as a whole, it probably goes without mentioning that the common case shape is going to be round in nature, apart from the rare instances of rectangular cases or those of just that tonneau style. However, very rarely are there watches that are a true square. As a result, this is one of those pieces that takes some time to get used to when you look down, although as your eyes adapt, the Monaco's distinctive design grows on you, aided by a reasonable 39mm diameter width and 47.7mm lug-to-lug dimension that, to give a traditional round case equivalent, wears closer to that of a 41 to 42mm case in my opinion. So in other words, the Monaco does have some presence that extends beyond the dimensions that really allow it to be unlike anything else in the market. This considered the area where there is the most size, it's going to be from that thickness at 15mm, which frankly is thick even for a modern chronograph of the automatic variety. Though the almost perfectly flat case back does sit close to the case, and you also are getting a really interesting effect with the curvature of the sapphire crystal, and its wear is also aided by an excellent alligator strap signed with a deployant buckle. Zeroing in on the case finishing, we have an angular architecture highlighted by alternative brushing and polishing throughout the faceted surfaces. Along the 3 o'clock side of the case, there is a non-screw down sign crown at 3, as opposed to the 9 o'clock on the original models, with rectangular pushers flanking it on both sides, making 100 meters of water resistance on this piece all the more impressive. Approaching the watch's anterior surface, we are greeted with a sapphire crystal, which again has a interesting dynamic how it curves. Just seeing this in a square format, I would just imagine is a more complex type of execution on behalf of Tag Heuer. And it does give us a very clean view of the dial underneath. Now, compared to a lot of non-circular watches out there on the market, the Monaco makes use of a round central primary dial set within a square case opening and demarcated by a printed white minute track with lume plots at each of the 5-minute positions and double plots at the noon, an effect that utilizes negative space, which exposes the vibrant blue sunburst primary surface to be visually impactful while also allowing better legibility to this design overall. Applied faceted and polished steel indices mark and occupy the extra real estate outside the circular dial in all but the 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions, and square subdials in white with black printing handled the chronograph timekeeping, while a simple printed crosshair and small second track running seconds at 6 o'clock and a date window neatly tucked in as well. In terms of luminescence, lume on the hands and in the small circular lume plots glows with reasonable incandescence, though the lume clearly wasn't a priority with this design. Looking at this watch compared to the original, there are certainly differences, but a lot of what has worked is now continuing to work here as well, and the design as a whole has clearly held up, but still leaning into that interesting 1960s, 70s dynamic that this watch I think embodies perfectly. However, one element of the modern watch, which is of course substantially upgraded, is the decorated caliber 02 beating away on the watch's reverse side. Now, for much of the most recent history, Tag Heuer watches depended on third-party calibers, but lately the brand has unveiled several new in-house manufactured calibers, including the Heuer 02 in this Monaco, which is a interesting interesting trend for the brand, and also hopefully an interesting sign for what is to come. And it seems like a lot of the recent releases are telling us that that probably is the case. Now, last year I looked at another model that housed this same movement with the Octavia. It was a specific reference from 2017, so I definitely recommend checking it out. So this is my first time with this movement, but let's just go through the general gist of what this movement is packing here. Zeroing in on this caliber, clearly visible through the open case back on the Monaco, we have a manufacturer vertical clutch and column wheel chronograph caliber featuring a solid and on-brand level of decoration with sporty undertones. There is the presence of Geneva waves across the bridges, a clearly visible column wheel here executed in bright, vibrant red, and a black-coated open-worked rotor that rotates unidirectionally, though very freely with enough mass that you can feel it at times and hear it when you have it on the wrist. This considered, it's not to the same extent that you'll get with, say, something like the Valjoux 7750, but just to set a level of expectation there, it does make some noise. As you'd expect from a column wheel vertical clutch caliber, chronograph operation has positive tactile feedback and feels precise. And in terms of the general specification, it's gonna operate at 28,800 vibrations per hour, 4 Hertz. It does feature hacking and hand winding, and also has a power reserve of a lengthy 80 hours. Now, it is important to note that the Caliber 02 isn't simply a box checked on Tag Heuer's behalf in terms of getting into the in-house game, but rather a caliber with a lot of thought put into it over the course of years of just development that went into it. And at a reasonably thin 6.9 millimeters in thickness, at least for automatic chronograph standards, when you're comparing that to others in the marketplace, and only coming in with 168 components, substantially fewer than many other in-house chronograph calibers, this movement is a competitive alternative with others in the category from the likes of, say, like the B01. And suffice to say that at the Monaco's just over $6,000 price point, this Caliber 02 is welcome and appropriate inclusion in a move in keeping with the spirit of technological innovation that inspired the original watch. But now to ask the question, and maybe answer the question really, why is the Tag Heuer Monaco an icon? Now, this is a watch that I had very mixed feelings about for quite some time, and I think many people probably share that same idea. You look at this watch for the first time, perhaps you put it on for the first time, and you just look down at this thing and you're like, what is going on here? I've never experienced anything like this before. Seeing a perfectly squared off case like this and seeing it on the wrist with its overall proportions, it is just a different dynamic than what I am used to, and I think many other people are used to. But as you wear it, and I think when you're talking about this idea of icon, it being thrown around so frequently, I think you have to look just underneath the scope and understand specifically what is all coming into play here, and am I actually being true with that classification of calling this watch an icon? And I think it certainly is. Is it maybe the most popular of icons out there? No. But it has all the things going for it to be worthy of that classification. For one, it's got the history involved with it from both its contribution and development during kind of the automatic chronograph just sprint of many brands throughout the 1960s. It has that going for it. It has the pop culture connection to it, being featured in cinema and film and being attached to probably one of the coolest people in the 20th century with Steve McQueen, has that going for it. The automotive racing undertones of this design, I think, are certainly there. So those in love with automotive racing, I think will absolutely be in love with this type of watch design, and it makes total sense why it just rose to prominence in that just type of field and arena. And then when you're talking about design, is it unique? Absolutely. Is it going to be polarizing? Absolutely. There are going to be people that love this or absolutely hate this. But I was somebody that did not like this watch for quite some time. And do I think it's maybe personally for me something that I could pull off? Probably not. I don't think I have the personality for it. But when you get to put this watch on for some time, it's one of those moments where you just like, all right, I get it. I get what this watch is going for. And we talked about this idea of the status quo of watchmaking and design. When this watch came out, it totally went against what was the norm of the period. Think about what was going on in the 1960s from a watch design standpoint. Seeing dive watches were coming out, and that was still a new idea, but it was small dress watches. So then here comes this design-oriented, vibrant color type of timepiece with a square case shape that is pretty much unlike anything else. This level of announcement of oneself, I think, is what you probably would look for when you're dealing with an icon. So you factor all these things together, I think this is what allowed this watch to really stand the test of time. And even in 2021, there still aren't really any other watches out there that resemble what this watch is going for. Again, not gonna be for everybody, but for the right type of individual, and we're talking about the discussion of icon, being an icon isn't simply about just going with the flow, being for everybody. In a lot of cases, it's more about establishing itself as being something different, being something that's important. And I think the Monaco does that. And I think in 2021, it still remains as one of those key models from Tag Heuer, and no question even holds up to this day as a watch that is truly unique. But all right, guys, I'd love to see comments down below. What do you think of the Tag Heuer Monaco? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I know that this is certainly a design that has people on far side of either type of stance. I'd love to see where you stand in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That really does help out the channel. Also, if you want to maybe see more coverage of watches of this type that are, I would say, maybe underappreciated icons, but can kind of stand the test of time, had some importance historically when it was really unveiled, I'd love to see comments down below about other watches you would like to see covered in the future. Also, definitely check out those new watches on Baldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of all the brands that we carry. Definitely check out the watch consultation feature as well. And then follow on Instagram, see some cool photos of watches, stay up to date with the content. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.